For being here. So our first session is the book launch of Peerzada Salman's Between the Ephemeral and Internal. The moderator, Amber Paracha in conversation with the author, followed by a dramatic reading of Mr. Adnan Jafar. So I would like to invite Ma'am Amber Paracha to introduce herself and the panelists as well.
Yeah, so I'm Amber Paracha. I'm a fond reader of literature. I'm not as such involved in writing, whatever. So I'm really honored that I've been invited to have a discussion on Salman's book. How it started was that I've been a close follower of Salman's cultural critic columns that he writes for The Dawn. And so when his short stories came out, I was probably the first one to go and get them, to read them. And this session will be about the thought process that went behind the short stories, followed by some recitations, like dramatic readings, and then we can open the floor for Q&A. So, Salman, tell me something. You wear a lot of different hats. So, poet, a writer, a playwright, and a cultural critic. Which one of these do you identify with the most, and why?
First of all, I'd really like to thank you, Amina, and Shama for inviting me here as a writer. You know, we like to put people into boxes, and the box they've chosen for me is that of a journalist. Nobody thinks of me as a writer. So I'm really grateful to Shama and Amina and you. And before I answer your question, I'll answer all of your questions, definitely. I'd like to take something off my chest. I've been wanting to say this for a long time. I think this is the right platform for it. It'll take 5 to 8 minutes. Can I? Because I think it's kind of related to this.
Please.
It's something very personal, but I need to share this.
Sure, go ahead.
From January 2019 to the last quarter of 2021, it was the darkest period of my life, without a shadow of doubt. It was the saddest, darkest period of my life. And I was down in the dumps. It was something extremely personal that I wouldn't like to discuss here. I had no clue who to talk to, who to go to. I had hit the wall, as they say. And there came a time when I really entertained the thought of even self-harm. It was so dark and bleak. But then something came to my rescue. I have always had an inflated ego, which has always come to my rescue. So I decided to have some kind of distraction from whatever was happening in my life, in my personal life. So I thought about publishing these stories. I mean, I've been writing stories for the last 20, 25 years. And I know it's difficult to publish a novel or a novella here in English because there are very few takers for it, very few publishers. So I thought this might happen. So I went to Huri Noorani, who runs this wonderful publishing house called Maktaba Danial. She had published in 2017, she had published my collection of my English poems, Bemused. And so I went to her and I said, I want to, publish these stories. And she said, Salman, I'm a fan of your work, but my plate is so full. Even if I decide to publish these stories, they wouldn't see the light of day up until 2023. So, and I was in a hurry. So what I did was, and then she came up with this wonderful nugget of advice. She said, why don't you talk to Maniza Naqvi, who has come out with this online publication called The Little Book Company. Now here's the thing. That's the reason that I'm telling this story. In the few interactions that I've had with Maniza, in the past, I knew she lives in the US with Maniza, I was unkind to her. I was pretty rude. One of my personality traits is that I can be very standoffish, I can be extremely arrogant, and I was not nice to her in the few interactions that I had with her. Still, the kind of situation that I was in, I decided to talk to her. So I got in touch with Maniza and I said, I have these stories with me. Would you like to have a look at them? And would you publish them? And she was kind enough. She was really, really nice enough to respond, and she said, just send them over. And I sent the stories to her. And I don't know if she liked the stories, if she hated the stories, but she said, yes, I'm going to publish them. So I was cock-a-hoop about it. I was really, really happy about it. And I think within 7 or 8 or 10 days, this was published online. Not just that, 7 or 8 copies were sold. So, which was a big deal for me at the time. So I'd like to really, really thank Maniza once again from the bottom of my heart. She's been really, really nice to me, and she came to my rescue at a very, very critical juncture of my life. And what happened subsequently was that I only knew you as the wife of one of my friends, Nadeem Farooq Paracha, the great cultural critic. And you got in touch with me and you wrote a glowing review of the book. And there's another the young lady, Fatma Ijaz, she wrote a wonderful review. So then everything went fine and hunky-dory. So what was your question? Sorry. So that was the background. What was the question?
Yeah, as a playwright, as a writer, as a poet, as a journalist, so which area do you identify with the most?
I identify with all of them. Poetry. Poetry is all about rhythm. It's where meaning takes a back seat, and it's a certain arrangement of words in rhythm. And that's what really fascinates me. I love poetry. Drama is all about dialogue. It's about exchange of lines, fervid lines, tepid lines, insipid lines. Last year, I wrote a monologue. Adnan is sitting here. He did a tremendous job. He acted in it. He delivered that monologue for me. It was, what was the title? Free Man. Free Man was its title, and we did that at the National Academy of Performing Arts. It was very well received. Yes, I'm a publisher. I'm an author because I've published 3 or 4 books. And as for culture critic, I'm not sure about that. I don't know where this tag came from. I'm a journalist. 2 things here. They say journalism is literature written in a hurry. So it is literature. I mean, it depends how you articulate yourself as a journalist. The second thing is, Ghalib, the great Ghalib, in one of his letters has come up with this immortal lines. He says, when your passion becomes your profession, count yourself lucky. So I'm a happy chappy, I'm a lucky bastard. I love what I do, so it doesn't come across as a job, doesn't look like a job. So I love all of them. These are all forms of expression, and I love them all.
That's amazing. So I'll flow into the next question. Is you almost turning reviews of plays, art exhibitions, literary festivals, almost on a daily basis. So given the tight deadlines, does it impact your critical analysis?
I just like I said, I love writing. So it's not laborious for me. It doesn't come across some kind of labor. I love it. It comes natural to me. So I'm a compulsive writer. Yes, what happens is that if you're writing more frequently, sometimes quality suffers. The quality suffers. Sometimes it happens. But again, if you're aware of your ability, if you're aware of your talent, you can rectify. But I love it. I mean, it's no big deal for me. I just do it like this.
So moving on to the short stories, basically, I see a lot of tinges of yourself. I didn't know you as a person, I still don't, but somehow there's a lot of reflection of yourself as a person. There are themes of nostalgia, there's pessimism, there's hope, there's romanticism in these stories. So how much of it was kept autobiographical on purpose?
On purpose, yeah.
Yeah. Secondly, how was the process of catharsis, actually getting these out in the public?
I'm not sure about the catharsis bit. Hope, again, I'm not sure if there's hope in my stories, but yes, pessimism. I think a lot about mortality, about death. I think all writers think about that, about human relationships. Especially, I think the most... man-woman equation is the most enigmatic and at the same time most beautiful thing to write about. So the pessimism comes from, when I think about death, when I think about mortality, and we all think about that. The pessimism aspect comes from that. Nostalgia, I'm not a big nostalgia fan. I don't like the word. Yes, I love old music, old Bollywood music, old English, grunge, rock, pop, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Kishore Kumar. So the nostalgia bit comes from there. Otherwise, I don't look back. I move on.
So what was the process of catharsis?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a difficult question. I don't understand this word, what it means. I'm just a compulsive writer. An idea hits me and I start putting pen to paper. That's it. I mean, if it helps me along the way, fine, fair enough. If it doesn't, but I am a writer. I feel good. I feel good about it. That's it.
Yeah, and how much of, I mean, I see a lot of reflection in each story. There's Salman peeking through. So how much of Salman we don't know yet, like the public
I
eye?
cannot conceal, it's against my grain. I cannot conceal myself from anybody, from anything. I am boisterous, I'm loud, I'm cantankerous, I can fall in love at the drop of a hat, I can fall out of love. What you see is what you get. I don't think I hide myself. I don't think I can conceal or hide myself from anybody, from anything. I am who I am. That's it.
Okay, and so when you're writing either prose or poetry, how much of is for your own creative urge to satisfy that, or how much weightage you give the audience, that what will the audience like to read?
To be honest, up until now, I only have 3 readers: Ambar Paracha, Fatima Ejaz, and Adnan Jafar. I don't think I have many readers. I know some of them are even surprised to know that I'm a writer, that I've written stories. But I think I don't keep the audience in mind. Because I don't think like that. No. It's just an organic process. That's it. It's to do with a lot of. It's just an organic. I don't think. No, I don't have any readers as of now.
So there's no compromise on...
No compromise.
That's good. And so who were your influences? Writers, Eastern and Western?
Okay. Influence is an interesting question. There are many. But the foremost is Shakespeare. Now, that guy was amazing. I mean, there is no one like him. There will never be anyone like Shakespeare. I think he's written 36 or 37 plays. I've read only 10 or 11 of them. But 2 things. The language, he exhausts the possibility of language. I mean, it's so poetic, it's so rhythmic, and he has coined a lot of words that we now use in our, when we converse. We don't even know that this comes from Shakespeare. For example, the word like nutshell. Nutshell was used in Hamlet. Or crocodile's tears, the phrase that we use that comes from Othello. And the kind of characters that we see in Shakespeare, I mean, we come across a lot of people in our lives, and Shakespeare has written about all of them. A jealous husband, a loyal wife, a greedy wife, Lady Macbeth, an arrogant army general, Coriolanus. He is written, romantic, Romeo and Juliet, for example. I mean, he has written about all of us. I mean, you read Shakespeare and you will immediately understand what he's talking about. He was amazing. So language, 2 things. Language, there is no one like Shakespeare, trust me. So Shakespeare has been a huge influence, but obviously no one can write like Shakespeare. That's 400 years ago. He belongs to a different time period.
Yes.
But there is no one like him. He's been a huge influence. And in Urdu, I love Urdu poetry. There's Ghalib, there's John Elia. John Elia was a kind of a start for me. And then there's Rashid, Noon Mim Rashid. And the current lot, you must have read that fantastic Czech writer, Franco-Czech writer, Milan Kundera. He has been an influence, but obviously we're not even close.
It shows in your work, in your stories.
Actually, really? Yeah. That's flattering.
So, do you think writing has a gender? Can you differentiate between a female author or a male author?
I must take a sip.
Knowingly go and read a female author because of the style of writing or the thoughts?
I can respond to this question, but I won't. Because I'm shit scared of cancel culture. I think writing has a gender.
It does.
But I wouldn't respond to this question.
Same. So moving on, so technology, right? We live in this very fast-paced digital age. Everyone's a star. Everyone gets to write a blog and is called a writer. Everyone can take a picture and post on Instagram and they're an artist or photographer. So how do you, when average eyeball has 10 seconds attention span, how do you take to technology as a writer?
I think it's unavoidable. You need to learn. You need to learn all the time. Technology is unavoidable. You need to love. You need to fall in love with technology. And I haven't adapted to it right now. I mean, at this point in time, I have some nephews sitting right at the back of the hall. They help me a lot with whenever I'm not very tech savvy. I'm technologically challenged, but I know its importance. I know the importance of technology. But having said that, this famous Irish poet Seamus Heaney, uska कहना ये है कि a writer's job is to turn up at the desk. That's it, which means keep writing. Whatever your tool may be, you're pressing keys, you're wielding the pen, just keep writing. Just turn up at the desk. I mean, technology is important. I think it's very important. You cannot just escape from this fact. But first and foremost, you need to write. Keep writing. That's it. If you want to use a computer, fair enough. You want to use your mobile phone, fair enough. You want to use a writing pad.
Actually, the question is more like everyone's a writer, right? Because you have access to a voice on Facebook or just blogs. So do you get, in terms of quality, do you get threatened by these new people who think they're writers? Or that was also part of the question. Like, one is adapting to technology and keeping up with it, and one is everyone has 15 seconds of fame.
I don't think, I never feel threatened by anything. The problem with the younger generation is that they don't read a lot. And in order to write well, you need to read well as well. You need to be a good reader. And you have to have your own style. You have to develop your own narrative style, which is very important, which comes along with the fact that if you're a good reader, if you've read a lot, if you know different styles of writing, for example, let's say there's James Joyce, or for that matter, Charles Dickens, entirely different styles of writing. But you need to know, you need to be aware of that. There are different styles of writing. The younger lot, the problem with them is, some of my students are there, and I keep telling them they don't read enough. So when they don't read, I mean, film dekh lo. They don't even watch movies. What the hell do you, so, just kidding. So I don't feel threatened by anyone. I don't think it's a question of being threatened. I mean, to each his own.
Do you ever go through writer's block?
Never. There are phases where I slow down, when I feel sluggish, but never. I don't even know what writer blocks is.
So, what was your inspiration to become a writer, and would you want your children to follow your career path?
I have 2 children. I think my son is over there, and he's a good actor. He loves acting. My daughter, who isn't here, I know she writes poetry, but she doesn't want us to know that she writes poetry. She's 18. I wouldn't mind, but he's an actor. He's a very good actor. I don't know. I'd be happy if they become writers or authors. I don't mind that.
And how were you inspired to become a writer?
To be honest, this is difficult. I don't know. What really attracts me is words, the power of language. I love languages. I'm slightly familiar with 2 languages, Urdu and English. But I love the way people use language. For me, the medium is the message. I mean, I don't really think a lot about the content of a story. It's the way you propagate, it's the way you write a story, it's the way you present it. The presentation counts a lot. I mean, for example, I just mentioned Shakespeare or Ghalib. They all have their narrative styles. Joyce has his own narrative style. It's the presentation that counts. It's how you put across a message. The way you use words. Language is power. Trust me, people don't realize. Language is power. So I guess I've always been into, words titillate me. They really, I'm fascinated by the way people use words. Yeah. That's the only inspiration. That's the only answer that I can come up with.
Okay, so the process of writing, what comes first? Is it sense of observation or is it introspection in your case?
A good question. See, writing is a pretty lonely exercise. It's a lonely job. So what do you do when you're alone? You have no one to talk to. So you talk to yourself. Since it's a lonely exercise, introspection has to be there. So you constantly introspect, and you constantly ask questions, and you're constantly talking to yourself. So it's a dialogue. It's a monologue, but at the same time, it's also a dialogue between you and your writing self. You see? So introspection has to be. I mean,
That's the first step.
yes, it's part of the process. I mean, whoever says that he or she doesn't introspect lies. Trust me, introspection has to.
I mean, what I meant to say was, is it like a process of observation that leads to introspection, or
It's a mix of.
It's a mix.
I mean, it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. But obviously you need to be a sensitive guy to feel things, and you need to be a sensitive guy to know what experience in a particular phase of your life has led to this particular phase. You need to be aware of these things. And again, if you have the ability to articulate your thought, wonderful. That's what can make you or turn you into a writer.
It's really good to know. So what's in store for the readers? What's the future?
In 2020, again, with that difficult phase in my life, I started writing a novella. And I'm very, very proud of it. Looking for a publisher. It's a novella. It's to do with COVID. The backdrop is COVID. But it's about someone, a man who's struggling with his personal and professional life, trying to juggle. So I've written that. I'm looking for a publisher. I'm in touch with a couple of them. Nobody has said yes to me as yet. These days, September, I was in Italy. I went to Italy and Germany. So I came back and kisi ne kaha ki, why don't you write a travelogue? But I'm turning that travelogue into another novella. So one novella is ready. The other one is on the anvil.
Okay, great. We look forward. Anything in your writing career that you wanted to do and you haven't been able to achieve as yet? Any regrets?
I love writing plays. People don't know that I'm a playwright as well. I love writing plays. And I hope one day, one of my plays, you'll get to see one of my plays at some NAPA or a Arts Council. I don't know. But I love writing dialogue.
Something on the lighter note, there's a lot of lizards in your poems, in your short stories. Any special fascination with lizards?
Honestly, I have no answer. I don't know. Lizards, they're cold-blooded. And I don't know. I have no answer. I think, you're in your room, you're half so rahe hain, lete huए hain, suddenly you see a lizard stuck on a wall or just crawling across out of nowhere. And I've seen most of the women that I've come across in my life are either scared of lizards or are disgusted by them. And that's fascinating. Yeah. It's really fascinating. I don't know. But आपने नहीं देखी कभी lizards?
नहीं. It's also our favorite topic, I think, being women, because we're so scared of them. It's just thought I'd bring this up. आप Facebook post delete क्यों कर देते हैं? You write like really nice stuff, and then I want to come back to it, and then it's gone. Is it just like something that you're going through during the day, and you don't want it to be permanent?
People steal your ideas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm a damn good writer. The problem is, they can steal your phraseology as well.
That's true.
Simple.
So I'm done with my Q&A.
Well,
it was really nice to get to know
thank you
the
so
person
much.
behind
Those
the
wonderful questions.
I'll ask a few questions.
Are tum bhi? YouTube routers?
Talking about the obsessive compulsive nature of his writing, because I've read your this collection of short stories, Ephemera.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of poking and pinching and pricking people and the system. Is there some anger? There's a sense of anger.
It's fun being a non-conformist. It's fun being a non-conformist. It's no fun. If we keep agreeing with each other, there's no conflict, है ना? मैं और आप agree करते रहेंगे, there is no conflict. It's when disagreement comes in, the conflict erupts, है ना? So it's fun to be a non-conformist, isn't it? I don't want to get into trouble.
So, most of these stories are, 3-4 pages long, average length. Are these spontaneous titles that you came up with? Or
The titles were spontaneous.
You were just doodling away and things were coming up?
The titles were...
Structure was coming up?
The titles were spontaneous, but the thing with me is that I can't write long pieces. I don't read hefty novels. I can't read hefty novels. I haven't read War and Peace yet. My most favorite, my favorite novel is Ulysses by James Joyce, and I haven't yet finished it. And it's my favorite novel. I haven't yet finished reading it. So it's against my grain. I like short stuff. I like short and sweet. I just keep it short and sweet. That's it. I don't like hefty books.
So you're definitely not going to end up reading War and Peace?
Never. It's too thick for me.
All right. Anything else you want?
Why don't you entertain the audience with somehow?
No.
What's your question?
Do we ask questions first?
Okay.
Yes.
Or you want to do your...
Did you mention or did you do the gist of your book? Because we were talking in the air when I came in.
I'm sorry. So I gave a little background. Okay, let me repeat myself then. So it's a little somber, it's a little serious, so bear with me. So I'll try and repeat myself verbatim. So January 2019 to 2021, the last quarter of 2021 was hell for me. It was the darkest period of my life. It was really hell. And I just wanted a distraction. So I'd been writing these stories for the last 20 years. And there's a story in it which I wrote in my university. I was in Karachi University studying English literature. There's one story called Bring Along Your Kafkas and Shakespeare's. Yeah. I wrote that when I was 28 or 24, 25 years old. And it's included. And the last story that's in the book is, I think it's called Naked. I wrote that in 2020. So you see, it's 1992 and 2020. It's a span of 28 years. But the thing was that I was going through a terrible phase. I just wanted a distraction in my life. So I decided to publish this book. And I went to a publisher whose name is Huri Nurani. She published a collection of my English poems in 2017. But she said, Salman, there's too much on my plate. I can't publish your stories right now. Because even if I publish them, they won't see the light of day until 2023. So then she told me about Mariza Naqvi, who's a writer, a very good writer. And she had come up with this online publishing house called the Little Book Company. She said, get in touch with her. I just told him, and I got in touch with her, and that's how this book came about.
Okay, thank you.
Ji Sahab.
हम आपके कॉलम न्यूज़पेपर कॉलम भी पढ़ते रहे हैं
जी,
बुक रिव्यू भी पढ़ते रहे हैं और पोएट्री भी पढ़ते रहे
जी।
मैं जो सवाल करने वाला था उसका जवाब आप पहले ही दे चुके हैं कि आपका ट्रैवलॉग पढ़ने के लिए हम बेचैन हैं।
जी मैं अभी बाहर गया था तो उसका ट्रैवलॉग लिख रहा हूँ, लेकिन मैंने उसको नवेला की
मुझे मालूम है, आपने फेसबुक पे वादा किया कि आप लिखेंगे।
जी मैं लिख रहा हूँ आजकल उसको।
Hi, this is Sarah. So I've been a writer myself as well, and I've been reading you for the longest time.
You're Sarah Ashraf?
Yeah, Sarah Danial officially.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know how important is reading, because today's generation is not into reading at all. If you go into the digital science of it, they say that there's only 3 seconds of attention span that children have while going through their smartphones. And
extremely, very good question. Extremely important. You can't do without it. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I have 2 children of my own, and they're not doing it at school, but unless I do it at home. And I work 9 till 7, but if I give them dinner or not, if I put them to sleep or not, I make sure that they read 45 minutes.
Wonderful. Good to know that.
But why is it not being done at a macro level? What's keeping us from it?
I can't speak for other people,
Yeah.
but I guess that's the nature of the beast. That's how life has become these days. I mean, it's really, really using that cliched phrase. It's really, really very fast-paced.
Yeah.
I mean, सुबह होती है, शाम होती है, don't know कैसे वक्त निकल जाता है. But I agree with you. Extremely important to read. Extremely important to read. John Elia, the great poet, John Elia, उनका एक जुमला बड़ा मशहूर है. जिन लोगों को पढ़ना चाहिए वो लिख रहे हैं.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you, but I don't know.
Isn't it the responsibility of the adults to inculcate the
It is,
reading?
it is. But the adults
We're
are
a nation
not.
of dying readers.
But the adults are, they have their other fish to fry.
Absolutely. Well, that answers my question.
Yeah. Ji, sir, please go ahead.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
हाँ, आप चाहती मैं फंस जाऊँ? हाँ.
Culture. If you say that, only 7-8 people have bought your books, then, and I'm one of them sitting right here, right? If you're not
Have you read my
thinking-
book?
Yes. So if you're not
Read.
thinking about the audience, why would you be afraid of the cancel culture? Why don't you just comment on it?
I was being funny. But I think it's a difficult question. I'm not an expert, but I think women tend not to write about metaphysical stuff. If I'm not too, लेकिन men on the other hand, can push the boundaries, as they say. But women tend to shy away from writing about metaphysical stuff. They're more into, the relationship thingy and more into the worldly stuff. That's my, I could be wrong, please, I could be wrong. But that's my understanding. But men, obviously, they go for a bigger horizon in terms of content. But my God, I'm a huge admirer of Arundhati Roy. I mean, she's a fantastic writer. I'm jealous of her. Seriously.
सर मेरा नाम राशिद अली है
जी.
सर मैं ये सवाल करना चाहता हूँ कि जैसे हमारे यहाँ गालिब में रूहानियत का मैस्टिसिज्म का मेटाफिजिकल जो अप्रोच है पाई जाती है, मीर में भी पाई जाती है और इसके हमअसर जो शायरान हैं उनमें, ऐसा शेक्सपियर में भी है कि ऐसे मैस्टिसिज्म रूहानियत का कोई जिक्र हो?
बहुत है. शेक्सपियर का तो रूहों का जिक्र है, रूहानियत नहीं, रूहों का जिक्र है. Hamlet, my favorite play is Hamlet. Hamlet is one book that changed my life. Honestly, it sounds very bookish, very Asanvi, but that's true. Hamlet is one book that changed my life. Prior to that, I had no literary background. I read Hamlet and I became a different human being. Hamlet के तो बाप की रूह आती है उसको बताने के लिए कि इंतकाम लो मेरे कत्ल का. उसके यहाँ तो रूहानियत नहीं, रूहें भी हैं और चुड़ैलें भी हैं. नहीं, मैं कह रहा हूँ रूहानियत ही नहीं, रूहें भी हैं, ये कह रहा हूँ. ये नहीं कह रहा रूहानियत नहीं है, मैं कह रहा रूहें भी हैं उसके यहाँ. हाँ. Yeah. Yes, और कोई? Otherwise we have Adnan who's going to read 2 of my stories.
एक सवाल है वहाँ पे.
जी. हाँ. गालिब का इन्फ्लुएंस किस पे है? बेदिल पे. सर मैं झूठ नहीं बोलूँगा, मैंने बेदिल को पढ़ा नहीं है. तो मैं जी बिल्कुल मानते थे, लेकिन बेदिल ने फारसी में लिखा है, मुझे फारसी नहीं आती. हाँ. I haven't read Bedil that much, so I wouldn't. So, one more question, okay?
I do have a question.
Lots of questions. I thought.
I do have a question as well.
Please.
सर आपने जिक्र किया अनुरुद्धि रॉय का, तो मैं भी उनको बहुत अरसे से पढ़ रहा हूँ. And then you said that you stay away from conflict as well. So these 2 things are contradictory because.
The question was about whether writing has a gender. So I say, ठीक है, मेरा कहना ये कि writing does have a gender. That's the answer.
But reading Anadhi Roy, you cannot say that she has a gender. She just writes about everything.
Have you read her second novel?
The Ministry of Utmost Happiness? I do read it. It's still with me right
Doesn't
now.
that vindicate me?
Not at all. It does have a historical background as well. So it has it's her own way of writing. So.
I respect your opinion.
Thank you, sir.
So I think Adnan is now going to read 2 of my stories. So enjoy. He's a wonderful artist and a wonderful friend of mine.
You're being too kind. Thank you very much. And after my reads, he himself is a very good orator, as you could tell. And you got to listen to him doing some Angrezi and Urdu Taitul loves.
No,
please.
I'm also on duty. I need to cover this bloody
From
event.
Shakespeare and a few, reciting a few verses of poetry. So, this is towards the end of your collection of short stories. The title of the story is The Non-Story. On December 14, 2023, I set out to write a non-story. How shall I begin? I asked myself. How can it be a non-story if it has words and sentences, even if it doesn't have characters and situations? And if I wrote, the sky was auburn and the birds had begun to develop big giant human toes, and then suddenly switched to cell phones crying for help, wouldn't that be counted as short weird tales, abstractions to be cracked by the reader? This made me think about the reader. Who the hell is the reader? Why do I care about the reader? One reason could be, I want to be known as a writer. I want to be recognized as some kind of an unsung genius. Also, I want my story, non-story, to sell so that I can earn money and eat at the swankiest restaurant in town where my rich acquaintances throw parties on important occasions and allow women to take selfies with me with their arms around my waist or the other way around. But do I want that? No, I am so full of myself. I don't want to sell my creativity. Only I know how I create. So who is the reader I want to write the non-story for? Of course, there are a few types of readers interested in reading fiction, literature lovers, most of whom can't string a sentence together, academics, most of whom love to show off their verbose wisdom and turn the black money into shimmering white conferences, and writers, most of whom read other writers' material to knit or nitpick. Who do I want to write for then? Yes, I know who. The carpenter who fixed my ex-girlfriend's cupboard's wobbly legs. He sounded like someone who always wanted to read, but had been too financially challenged in life to take out time for it. Poverty and 4 children had kept him busy fixing people's creaky doors and rickety beds. My word, he was wise. He knew his Greek mythology and Shakespeare and was genuinely in love with them. Unlike these self-serving academicians and writers with a vested interest in literature. It's hard to find him now, though. I was too heartbroken to remain in the city she, my ex, lived in. Here's what happened then. On December 14, 20-something, I decided to write the non-story for myself. After all, it's my non-story, only I would know why I didn't call it a story. That's how I would also be able to smile at the tiny, clever phrases I coin and the similes I come up with and the analogies Wait a second. Why should a story, a non-story, have a clever phrase, a new simile or analogy? Why can't I write a tale, a non-tale in simple words without trying to sound smart? After all, I'm writing it for myself. Wait a minute. Why am I writing it for myself? Who am I? Now, this is probably the last title of this collection, Dialogue. There are quite a few number of dialogues. I'm going to read dialogue number 5. This is probably has to do with Peerzada's profession. Okay. It's the battle of conglomerates, and I've been invited to join in. Don't know why, but they've extended the invitation. Can't say no to that. For I've been paid by them. Everybody's being paid by them. It's moolah question. Money. How much can I make? How much can I make? You're a talented individual with a family to look after. Pile your plate high. Fill the cup to the brim. Make hay while the sun shines. What if I get singed? What if I turn to ash? I like the color black, but I don't want to get burnt. A fair heat. I remember the fire in columns. I don't want to get burnt in the fire in columns. It is no sin to be wealthy. It is horrendous to be not you, isn't it? You're being you. You have a way with words. You have a voice that could make Diana bestow you with eternal youth. You write with a pen that is as sharp as Dunn's and as heatful as Eliot's. The common word exact, but not vulgar, and the formal precise, not pedantic, silly, claptrap, hoax. They never wrote for others. Even when they doodled to gratify their own genius. And my words, my voice, my pen are not mine, are they? Are they? That's such dog shit. These are contemporary times. You must look in the direction where the wind is blowing. The wind is blowing fast. And this bitter cold, and I'm sick at heart.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, Adnan. That's the time we have.
Peerzada, please. Some poetry, John Elia, John Elia bhai Peerzada ke mentor the, he was a disciple of John Saab. और कुछ एक मोनोलॉग हैमलेट का हो जाए तो क्या बात है? आपकी मर्जी इनमें से चूज कर ले.
Okay, since you've read the English bit, जॉन साहब से मेरी शागिर्द समझ लें मुझे एक तरह का. So one of the major influences in my life is John Elia. तो उनका कुछ सुना देता हूँ आपको. फिर मैं, by the way, I work for Dawn, so I'm also here to, cover this event. So I'm on duty as well. So quickly, जॉन साहब की एक गज़ल मुझे बहुत पसंद है. मैं सुनाता हूँ कि किसी से अहदो पैमा कर न रहियो, किसी से अहदो पैमा कर न रहियो, तू इस बस्ती में रहियो पर न रहियो, सवेरे ही से घर आ जाइयो, आज है रोज़े वाक़या बाहर न रहियो, हमारा उम्र भर का साथ ठहरा, सो मेरे साथ तू दिन भर न रहियो, हमारा उम्र भर का साथ ठहरा, सो मेरे साथ तू दिन भर न रहियो, नज़र पर बार हो जाते हैं मंजर, जहाँ रहियो वहाँ अक्सर न रहियो. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you.